When Captain Armstrong Malema began his career 45 years ago, he did not envision that he would be among the first to fly the country's maiden airline, Kenya Airways, when it launched on 22nd January 1977, following the breakup of the East African community and the consequent demise of East African Airways. Having gone through his studies in Uganda during the times of the Ugandan dictator Idi Amin, Malema remembers how tough it was to convince his family to let him study in Kampala.
It was the fact that the training was going to take place in Uganda. Amin, being the president, was a military dictator, as everybody knew about him. So when you were going, you had to have determination and courage. One thing is I was determined, and since I was so passionate about flying, it's like now that the chance had cropped up, there's no way I could spare it.
What of his father's relations after his skepticism?
I think at the end of the day, he appreciated it so much. And to make matters even better for him, I remember, you know, they used to give us almost this type of uniform as students. And I remember because of my height, you see my jacket was big enough to fit him. So I remember giving him part of my uniform. And he used to sit like when he was walking in the village. In fact, people started calling him Captain Malema. Now they were calling my father Captain.
Though retired from 2018 after 40 years of service, Malema, who was today honored as a national hero at the Mashujaa Day celebration in Kericho County, still loves to fly and believes that the recognition couldn't have come at a better time.
Now that it has happened, to me actually it's not a big surprise, because I was looking at my personal achievements, like what I've achieved as a person and for the country. So I kind of assessed myself, and according to me, it's like I qualified to be a hero.
But does he believe he's a hero? He says that everything he does was reminiscent of American astronaut Neil Armstrong, the first man to land on the moon.
When Kenya was acquiring Airbus A310-300, I excelled. I ended up being the first pilot to qualify flying Airbus A310-300. And it's all documented. Whatever I'm talking about was written at that time in the local dailies, and it was on TV and whatnot. So after that, being the first pilot to qualify on that aeroplane, Kenya has rewarded me when they were acquiring their own, because the first aeroplane was leased. So when Kenya was acquiring their brand new Airbus from Toulouse, France, I was rewarded by going to do the maiden flight.
On this day, we hanged around Wilson Airport and coincidentally interacted with the most defining plane model of his career.
What is the difference between what you started versus what we have right now?
Yeah, what has changed mainly is in terms of technology.
Captain Malema reckons that a lot has changed in the aviation industry since his time.
But the modern aeroplanes, all this, like if it's 250 or 5, in digital form. I don't have to look at it at 240, the next stick is like 250, then that's 253. No, it will simply indicate 253. Altimeter, like let's say you are 5,570, the figure 570 will just come on the screen. So the main thing that has changed is mainly the instruments.
The career, he says, is very demanding and applies pressure on family, men and women.
Every time you take off, you are going away from your family. It can be quite challenging to you and even the family themselves. But so long as the family members know that you are not doing that for the sake of it, that's one way of earning their bread. And at the end of the day, they end up being the beneficiaries. Then it works out.
Captain Malema remembers the remarkable moment when he was asked to fly the late former President Daniel Arap Moi as he left the country on international duty.
Now, a passenger flight is a very special flight, by the way. Normally we have one captain and one co-pilot, or one first officer. But that particular one, they have two captains and one first officer. In other words, they don't want to leave anything to chance. Of course, us as pilots, we are sure the two of us are good enough. But that's our passenger flights,
Anxious and scared, Captain Malema narrates that he felt like the entire country depended on him. Anything that could have gone wrong would befall him.
You know what went through my mind? It's like, can we imagine the whole of Kenya, me as a person, Malema, it's like I'm holding the whole of Kenya in my hands, because we have got a whole president on board, and the two captains that are supposed to be in the cockpit are at the rear. So right now, it's like I'm carrying the whole of Kenya. It was a very exciting moment.
Memories are still vivid. Pope Francis, who visited Kenya in 2015, and former Namibian president are just but some of his passengers. But then he explains that there are times that would send shivers across his spine, as he explains on a trip from Bombay to Nairobi that he had a depressurization incident. What followed would be a choice that fully lay on his shoulders as a senior pilot on board.
As a captain, you are trained that should that happen, should that depressurization happen, you will have to don your mask as fast as possible and establish contact with your co-pilot, or if the co-pilot, establish contact with the captain, and then dive that aircraft as fast as you can, because you have got just a few minutes. If you don't, you'll not have reached like 10,000 feet above the sea, then most of the passengers will black out. Even you yourself, you can black out because you're also a human being. So you have to don your mask as fast as you can and then dive immediately.
His retirement has, however, not stopped him from giving back to the society. Captain Malema is currently writing a book where he acknowledges God's hand in his career.
I want whoever reads the book, whoever reads it, without any explanation, I want them to see that there's the element of God. At every twist or turn that I made, if you just read that book, you see that there's an element of God.
Today, he is crowned as an icon and a symbol to be emulated. Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.